Hi and welcome back! My plan this time is to finish the process of framing the roof. First up, I have to thank a commenter from the last video who gave me a great summary of the roof framing process from a professional's point of view. Though I try to do research online about each process before I do it, I often run into a lot of conflicting information that I have to sort through. Hearing information from primary sources like people in the construction industry is incredibly helpful for me, so thank you. Anyway, last time I wasn't quite able to finish up my trusses. Each truss needs a collar tie going across the top to strengthen it. I put these in off camera. In order to start installing the trusses in place, I needed something to rest them on. I could just rest them on the top plate of the upper floor, but that would make it logistically hard to get inside the house again. I've tried with this project to provide myself as many access ports and removable pieces so that I can retain full access to the entire structure. In addition, according to my research, it's not uncommon to have a double top plate on the top floor for strength. So I'm going to make a secondary top plate that all my roofing structure can attach to, which will ensure that the roof structure comes off the house easily. This first starts with cutting a bunch of scale 8-foot 2x4s. Then I begin to layer up the 2x4s on top of the existing structure. I am staggering the joints of both layers for strength. I used nails to attach both layers together, and continued this process of laying lumber and nailing together around the whole structure. After removing the clamps, I can remove my 2x4 structure and begin to lay trusses on it. On its own, the structure is not very rigid, but that will soon change with the addition of trusses. The first truss needs some work before it can be installed, though. Thinking a few steps forward in the process, I'm going to be installing sheathing around the whole existing house structure. In order to do this, I need a framing member to nail each plywood sheet to. In order to make my life easier later on, I'm going to install blocking on the first truss to provide these framing members for myself. Okay, it's time to install the trusses. After placing the first one in place, I tried my best to ensure it was plumb, and then toe-nailed it to the plate below it. For the rest of the trusses, I wanted to make the installation process as easy as I could. Each truss needs to be placed 2 scale feet on center. So, to do this, I cut a bunch of spacers, each slightly less than 2 feet long, to take into account the thickness of each truss. Then, to the top of each truss, I nail the spacer. These spacers will form the ridge of the roof once I nail the whole thing together. Now, when I set all the trusses in place, the spacing at the top of the roof will be exactly 2 feet on center. And at the bottom of each truss, I can use another spacer as a guide to keep the trusses equally spaced there too. Each truss is attached to the plate below it with a toenail. In order to put up the roof, I repeated this process over and over. Attach a spacer to a truss. Set the truss in place. Ensure the bottom of each truss is spaced correctly. Nail everything in place. And repeat. This process worked really well until I got to the middle of the house, where I switched truss shapes. For more information on this, take a look at the previous video in this series, where I build the trusses. Anyway, I decided to attach 2 trusses together and erect them as one to help bridge the gap between the 2 types of trusses. Afterwards, I continued the process with the other types of trusses until I got to the end. At the end, I needed needed a slightly smaller spacer to take up the extra width of the house that wouldn't subdivide evenly into the 2-foot truss spacings I'd been using before. The ridge didn't end up being all that straight, unfortunately, but hopefully I can make this less obvious when I install the ridge cap on the top of the roof. The roof is headed in the right direction, but there's still a lot of reinforcement to go. The first thing to do is to install blocking between each rafter. This does two things: provide additional strength to the roof, and also provide a place for the sheathing to be nailed to later. Second, I at this point realized I forgot something. Remember at the beginning that I said I had installed all the collar ties? Well, I'd only installed them on one type of truss, and not the other. So I quickly made up a few more and installed them all before continuing forward. Third, the overhang my rafters create is not even right now. To alleviate this, I mark each one at 3 scale feet long, and then cut each to length. Once they were cut to length, I could install a fascia board to cap the end of my rafters and begin to form an eave on each side of the structure. Lastly, the bottom cords on each truss were not all that reinforced. I think ideally they need blocking between them just like the rafters, but I didn't have time to do that this weekend. That being said, right now, trusses are just floating in mid-air and no load is being transferred to any load-bearing walls below. To alleviate this, I'm going to install some 2x4s underneath each truss that connected to the load-bearing wall that runs below. Well, that's the roof, mostly complete. Just like the floors below it, there are some details that I need to complete later on, but in general, I'm quite satisfied with it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments below.